Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Murder at Bedtime. The no waffle, no frills 10-minute murder to help you sleep well. This is the first time I've had to issue a warning. This story does contain descriptions of a graphic nature which may upset some people, so please use listener discretion. Tonight's story is the story of Glyn Dix. At 3:30 p.m. on the 19th of June 2004, Adam Langford was returning home to the house he shared in Redditch, Worcestershire, with his mum Hazel and stepfather Glyn Dix. He was surprised to find the garden gate locked, so he nipped over to his sister Rachel's, who lived opposite, to ring his mum. His stepfather answered the phone and cheerily confirmed yes, they were in, and told him to climb over the gate. Now Adam thought this was a bit strange, but didn't question it, so this is what he did. When he reached the kitchen door, he came face to face with a nightmare he would never be able to erase from his mind. There he saw his stepfather, crouched over his mother, completely naked, with a hacksaw in his hand. Adam turned and ran back across the road to his sister's house. He crashed through the kitchen door, where Rachel and another of his sisters, Vicky, were seated, screaming, "He's killed Mum! He's chopped her up!" They at first thought that he was on something, but they got up and followed him over to their mums and stood there in shock, looking through the conservatory door into the kitchen. Dix, Rachel said later, was stood there, totally naked, knife in hand. He turned, smiled, and said calmly, "We had a little argument." He had cut Mum into 16 pieces. He had cut out her heart, liver, and kidneys, chopped off her head and 3 of her fingers. He beckoned her over with his finger and said, "Come here." But Rachel bolted back to her house and rang the police. When the police arrived and arrested him, Dix told them, "This is my wife Hazel. I love her very much. We are soulmates. We had a little argument and it went too far." Examination of Hazel's body found that she had died from a stab wound to the heart, along with another to the chest and 2 to the neck. The pathologist concluded that Dix had used up to 15 instruments on Hazel, including knives, saws, and even a pair of scissors. Hazel, 54, and a mother of 6, met Dix when she drove to prison to see her son Adam, who was serving 6 months for driving offences. Adam had struck up a friendship with Dix and then introduced him to his mother. They two became friends, and this blossomed into a romance, Hazel continuing to visit Dix after Adam was released. So when Dix was released in 1999 on licence after serving 19 years of his 25-year sentence, he immediately moved in with Hazel and they were soon married. During this time, it would seem that they all believed Dix's story, that it had been framed for a woman's murder. His story being that he was a member of an elite army where, after being knocked unconscious, he was woken to find a shotgun in his hand and a dead woman's body next to him. In fact, this couldn't have been further from the truth. Pia Overbury was a 32-year-old bakery assistant with a husband and 2 daughters living in Gloucester. As well as a job in a baker's and being a full-time mum, Pia also assisted her husband James, a builder, who had a fledgling property management business. They had managed to buy a small cottage on Gloucester docks. They let this property out to a 26-year-old man called Glyn Dix. But Dix was a bad payer who frequently had to be visited by Pyre to get the owed rent. Pyre left the bakery at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, October the 2nd, 1979. When her daughters arrived home from school, they were surprised not to be greeted by their mum, especially as it was one of the girls' birthdays. When their father arrived home, he informed them that their mum was going to a party straight from work, and once again they were a bit surprised. But what was even more surprising was when they woke in the morning and she still wasn't known. Unbelievably, it took a further 5 days for James to report her missing. When eventually he did, a search was set up immediately, and very soon her minivan was found abandoned at Gloucester train station. It would be 2 weeks later that a lady walking her dog in a copse in Carter's Grove Arbory found the badly decomposed body of Pyre. After examination, it was found that Pyre had been dead for over 2 weeks and most probably died on the day she disappeared. She had been shot at point blank range in the back with a shotgun. She had also been raped. James was at first the prime suspect, as it seemed the marriage was not a particularly happy one. That might explain the 5-day delay in reporting her missing then. But he was ruled out early in the inquiry. After interviewing friends and acquaintances of Pyre, the police eventually got around to Glyn Dix. He was interviewed but wasn't thought to be a suspect. But then, for some reason, Dix attempted suicide. He took an overdose, but he was saved. But it brought him back to the attention of the police, and this time under interview he admitted being involved in Pyre's death. He gave a number of different stories to the police. One of these was that he had bought the shotgun and cartridges off 2 men in Hastings, and when Pyre offered him £2,000 to kill her husband, he hired these 2 to do the job, but they killed Pyre instead. The next story was he took Pyre into a field to show how he was going to kill James, but he suddenly had the overwhelming urge to rape her. Afterwards, she begged him to kill her, as she was so miserable in her marriage. So Dix duly obliged, to put her out of her misery, as he put it. At his court case in July 1980, he stuck to this story until the 3rd day, when his solicitor advised him to change his plea to guilty and admit everything due to overwhelming evidence of the rape. This he did, blaming everything on a change of the seasons. Dix was sentenced to 25 years, and after stints in Broadmoor and Ashworth, he was classed as no longer a threat to society and moved to a low-category prison and released after 19 years of a 25-year sentence, where he went and did it all over again. In a sad footnote to this story, Adam, Hazel's son, who introduced her to Dix and found the horrible scene of his mum's murder, could never get over the guilt that he felt and the nightmares he had. He turned to speed to keep him awake, and in 2016 his heart just gave out at just 39 years old. In a final twist, Dix, who received a whole-of-life tariff for the horrible murder of Hazel, had been receiving letters from Hazel's family right up to 2020 asking questions of why he had done this to their mum. So the family were very shocked when they received a letter to say that Dix had died 6 years previously, but they could only reveal this now due to data protection. There is more to this story, with theories about black magic and sacrifice, which I may put up in future if you would like me to. But I believe, as Dick said, it was an argument about what to watch on TV. He was a psychopath, a time bomb waiting to go off. Why did the family and Hazel herself not look into his first crime? And these so-called experts who keep letting dangerous people out of jail. It's just terrible. And Pia's case. Did she want her husband dead? Probably not. But why go to a field with a man with a shotgun? As always, thank you so much for listening once again. I would love to receive your feedback, good or bad, on this case. But I really hope you enjoyed tonight's story. See you in 2 weeks. I hope you sleep very well. Good night.